Hello, and welcome to another edition of Classic Halo Star. That would be me. I am Carl, your movie, all things classic. We just talk about some of the great chronicles of the golden cinema and how it's affected us and how it's changed the world. Different things we want to talk about. Today, we want to talk about the 1965 movie, A Patch of Blue. This 1965 movie, directed by Guy Green, is all about a educated black man played by Sidney Poitier and an illiterate blind woman played by Elizabeth Hartman and her complicated mother, who is played by the wonderful and the great Academy Award-winning Shelley Winters. This is all about how the racial divide in the 60s and how black and white people were not supposed to be together. It was frowned on, but this movie really chronicles the friendship of this blind 18-year-old illiterate white woman and this highly educated black man that we find in Sidney Poitier. This is one of the greatest movies of our cinema. And something to note on this movie for Sidney Poitier, he was just now starting to come into his own as an accepted African-American actor in America. And he had just come off of his win from Best Actor for Lilies of the Field. But he was getting into his financial stride here. So what Poitier did, instead of taking a regular salary for the movie, he negotiated and opted to take 10% of all of the movie's intake of the movie's total funds that come in. So 10%. So this movie was extremely successful, and it turned out to be very, very profitable for Sidney Poitier. Even though the movie was filmed in 1965, if you really watch the movie plot, it may be just a little earlier than that when the actual plot is taken on. So there were a lot of things that had to be taken in consideration because the characters were complex in a way, but they were kind of black and white, no pun intended. Some of the liberties that the director had to take was, there was a kissing scene between Elizabeth Hartman and Poitier, where they actually was beginning to fall in love, but those scenes, they opted not to put them in the final release. Now, you can buy the DVD and you can see some of those scenes that were not taken, but the idea was to film them and, of course, do the same thing they do when they go into the South and remove those kind of scenes because interracial marriages were still against the law in a lot of states during that time. But it turns out that Guy Green opted not to include them at all in the movie, which I think was a great idea considering she was only 18 years old and the Poitier character was a little older, and it just seemed to have a little bit more class that he didn't take advantage of her, which I don't think that was the intent, but it left a softer message for us all in the movie. So let's talk about some of the awards that this movie was nominated for. Shelley Winters was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which she won the Oscar for the movie. Elizabeth Hartman was nominated for Best Actress for this motion picture. Poitier was not nominated. It got some award nominations for the music score and the screenplay and other things, cinematography. And another fact was they opted to do a black and white film. Color was available, but Guy Green, the director, thought that it would just go better within a black and white film. And I think that was a great move on his part. But let's talk about Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters is one of my most favorite actresses of all time. Every movie that she's in, she comes on the screen and she just commands. Now, Sidney Poitier has even said that it was Shelley's tour de force performance and being the character of Selena that she played that really helped him to mold this whole story. She had to play a hard character. Here she is, a a loose woman who has a blind daughter who's somewhat racist and, sometimes a prostitute when she needs to be. And the whole thing was a very tough character to pull off, but she did it with such grace and such professionalism that it really helped Poitier, is what he said in later years. But like I said, she went on to win the Oscar in this movie. And also, this would end up to be Wallace Berry, who played Old Pa, the grandfather, his final movie. So let's take a look at a clip from the movie, A Patch of Blue. If you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. This is a great movie, and it really, really, really is a time when Sidney Poitier was going into his own, and they were finding vehicles for him to do, because he refused to play anything other than great parts, and that's what he got. But this movie talks about our history during the civil rights era and how black and white was still trying to come together. And I must say, at this time, this was a very, very, very dangerous movie to be trying to do in this time of civil upheaval in the South and everything. But it tended to be embraced by a lot. So here's a clip from A Patch of Blue, starring Sidney Poitier, Shelley Winters, and Elizabeth Hartman.
May I help you?
What? Who's that?
You seem to have a problem. Anything I can do?
There is a crawly thing down my back and I can't reach it. No.
I got it. All right. It's a caterpillar. And he seems just as frightened as you are.
Oh, thank you, sir.
It's all right.
Oh, holy mackerel! My beads!
Oh. I'm sorry.
I'll never find them in all this.
Here, let me.
Sure is kind of you to help, sir.
Nonsense. It was my fault. What do you do with them?
String them.
That's clever. Do you ever make mistakes?
Mistakes? Even a fool could make mistakes with this.
So easy, even a blind girl can do them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Never seen you here before.
I only been once before. You come here much?
Mm-hmm. Nearly every day.
Are you out of a job then?
No, I work. Nights. But I live around here. There. Every bead back in the box.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I hope we found them all. So long.
You must be very tall.
Hey?
Your voice sounds tall.
Oh, about 6 feet and a bit.
Excuse me, is that very much taller than me?
Well, let's see. I'd say you're about 5 feet 4 inches or so, which would make me about 9 or 10 inches taller than you. Any more questions before I go?
I'm sorry, I don't usually talk so much. I gotta get moving. I promise I get 2 days' work done by tonight. Oh, cripes, the damn things is all mixed up.
Damn things are all mixed up, you should say.
What?
Are all mixed up.
You sound like the radio.
I do? How's that?
Different. Kinda sure. Lots of things is different on the radio.
Are different on the radio.
I'm sorry, are different.
That's better. Like what, for instance?
You know, like God and Jesus not really being swear words. I love the church stuff, only Roseanne, she won't have it on. And old Pa, he says religion's a lot of bunk.
Old Pa, is that your father?
He's my grandfather. He lives with us. You never heard of my father after I got this. Does it look bad?
No, it doesn't look bad. How did it happen?
It was when I was 5. One night, after I was in bed, Harry, that's my father, he come home unexpected. He was in a war or something.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Roseanne, that's my mother. She had one of her friends in. Harry, he got mad and he sliced up Roseanne's friend to a mush. Then Roseanne threw the bottle.